Welcome to the Char Chit Chat, a podcast exploring all things biochar related, coming to you from a small sheep and tree farm in the deep south of New Zealand. Thank you for joining me today, Megan and Daniel. I'd like to start off by asking a little bit about you guys. So where are you currently residing?
So we're about 20 minutes south of Rotorua, just underneath the shadow of Rainbow Mountain and on the edge of Lake Okaro.
Okay. And where do you guys say you are from, and where did you grow up?
Megan grew up here on her family farm, and I've grown up on a lifestyle block on the other side of Rotorua.
Okay. What age bracket do you guys fit into?
Late 30s.
Late 30s. Okay, cool. And what keeps you busy these days?
We have 4 small children, ranging from 4 to 11. Danny and I have our own transport business. I'm involved in the day-to-day running and the operational decisions of the family dairy farm. And then we've just actually another business combining what we know in the resilient farming space with what our practical knowledge and my 15 years of experience. And we're helping to coach farmers and growers into more resilient farming operations. So that's bringing things like using biochar as a stock feed or mixed with fertilizer to become a slow release fertilizer. Yeah, so that's what keeps us really busy.
Okay, thank you. Can you tell us a little bit more about your dairy farm?
We are just short of 300 hectares, all fully self-contained, so all young stock on as well. We milk, this year it's only 405 cows. 10 years ago, it was 530, so we've dropped back significantly. It is rolling to steep. We have about 30 hectares we can mow, which isn't really a lot. So we've got to be pretty creative on how we grow our supplement feed for February. So we've been sort of going down a more resilient farming path for about 5 years. So cover cropping, deferred grazing, lower stocking rates, biochar. Yeah.
Away from synthetic fertilisers.
Yeah, we dropped pretty much all of our urea out. The only fertiliser we really use is lime and tweaking things like boron when they're in coppers when they're low. Once a day, crossbred herd. Yep, that's us.
Okay. Is that once a day milking?
Yes, sorry, once a day milking. Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. I'm going to go a little bit more into the farming before we get into the biochar. How has this affected your finances, i.e., lowering your stock numbers, going to once a day? Have you also taken a cut then in profit, or have you been able to actually keep the finances more or less the same?
We are more profitable now, without a doubt. A lot of farms say that you'll get a 15% reduction in milk production in your first couple of years of transitioning to once a day. We really didn't find that, and that's purely because our farm's so steep that we couldn't feed the girls enough to actually get them back in calf. So we had a really stretched out calving spread. We had high empty rates. And so we actually trialled once a day just with our younger heifers in the first year. And we had a 3% empty rate that year in our heifers. And then the next year we just went the whole herd, and we've done the same production last year with less cows on once a day with less cows. So no, we are more profitable and more economic in this system. It really suits our steep country. We've also put halter on the cows. So, when the girls are coming out the back, they walk 3 Ks to the paddock, they walk 3 Ks home again, and then halter tells us they walk another 6 Ks harvesting food. So that's 12 Ks the girls have got to walk in a day just to get to the paddock and harvest food. So it's pretty hard to keep a cow fed and get her back in calf in those sort of conditions. So no, it has worked brilliantly for us.
Yeah. So the fact they're only getting milked once a day means they're burning less calories because they're not coming to the milking shed a second time. And so that actually allows them then to produce more milk with the calories that they've saved.
It could be more milk, but also just maintain condition as well. We don't really have to worry about our cows being in lower condition coming into mating because they seem to maintain it. So, yeah.
So it hasn't just been, I guess, the volume or the quality of milk going out in the tanker. You guys have been once a day, is it 12, 14 years, something like that?
No, the whole time being home, 15 years.
Yeah, 15 years?
Yeah.
So they have been once a day for a long time. And like Megan says, the condition of the cow. So then that also means if going back into calf, they get in calf sooner. So that mating spread is a lot tighter. So therefore, when they're calving, they actually have more days in milk, which then obviously increases the volume out. Health issues, lameness. So you haven't got cows not going into the vet with antibiotics in that stand down period. So there's that other positive contributing factors as well.
Yeah. And then what about the fertilizer bill? I mean, was that significant that you used to have, or have you kind of just spending that money somewhere else on the farm? Or are you actually saving a lot of that expense and that's contributing to your profit?
Yeah, that's a little bit of a hard one. Dad was never a big fertilizer user anyway. In the last 3 years, we've invested some of that in a big digger so that we can now create our own compost piles. So we have herd barns as well, which have enclosed bunkers underneath. So the girls in the herd barns over the winter, all the effluent gets stored in the bunkers. The effluent gets taken out, mixed with leftover feed, race scrapings, biochar, and turned into a beautiful compost that's then put back onto the seedlings specifically and the hay paddocks. The time and machine and energies that goes into putting that compost in, that eats a little bit more of the fertilizer. A tow and fert as well, and that's been amazing. So we did a lot of spraying in front of the springers and the colostrums to make sure they were getting their lime flour and their magnesium and things. So that was another capital expense that came out of the fertilizer budget. So I think we've just sort of changed how we're doing it. You've still got to feed the system one way or another. So, whether that's compost or fish fertilizer or it's just doing it the most efficient that we can.
I think just to tag on to Megan there in terms of feeding, they're really working on feeding the livestock under the soil, so the biology, rather than just feeding that plant on top of the soil and then actually making that biology under the soil, or that livestock under the soil actually do the job and mine those minerals out of the soil.
Yeah, we just had some soil testing done through Verdi, and one of the visual soil assessments they did, was it 50 worms in the spade? It was, wasn't it? Yeah, 50 worms in the spade, which is that's phenomenal.
Yeah, sounds great.
On our effluent country, we've had a problem with over fertility. It's too much magnesium, too much potassium. So this year we brought on a fair bit of gypsum to try and flush out some of that magnesium and up the calcium. So that's been quite cool to watch. Again, back to the biochar, one of our really poor performing effluent paddocks, we actually brought in biochar and put unactivated biochar on it, fairly heavy rate, and that helped mop up quite a bit of the potassium excess and magnesium excess on that paddock as well. And we've grown probably double the pasture this spring on what we have in any other year. So there's a fair amount of biochar coming in now. And we make our own compost. We do bring in, as we're transitioning our pastures to multi-species, we are still bringing in a high energy feed blend for the cows. So that was our way of safeguarding production. So while we dropped out the fertilizer, the grass got used to not being spoon fed easy nutrients. And while we did the setup crops and transitioned most of the farm into the multi-species, we decided that we would bring in a palm kernel molasses tapioca blend. It's 3 or 4 kilos a day to the cows just over sort of spring and mating. We'll probably knock it off in January once they start the multi-species crops. And that's our main goal on the farm is to get the pastures to a point where we don't need that energy blend anymore. And we bring in nearly 1,000 bales of straw from Hawke's Bay. Yeah, they get bales of straw put out for them just to nip away at as much or as little as they want, so that they can self-medicate, so that when the pasture is rich and going through them really quickly, they can have a nibble on the straw, and that'll help slow everything down. And what they don't eat just sort of lays down on the floor of the herd homes as a sort of a bit of a carpet, and eventually works its way down and into the bunkers at the bottom of the herd barns. And last year, when we actually opened up the herd barns and took the effluent out, the straw had created a highly fungal environment in that effluent. You could actually see the white fungi spores all the way through the effluent. So not only has that straw been amazing for maintaining an even rumination rate in the cows, it's also been a fantastic compost additive as well.
Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit more about these barns? When you say there's a big effluent collection system underneath, can you describe the size of that, what it's made of, and how it was built?
Actually called a herd home. They have a roof over them, and then in the bottom, they're actually 2 big concrete bunkers. I'd like to say it's probably just 100 metres long, 20 metres wide, something like that. So there's 2 of them, and then in each barn there's two bunkers that run the full length of it, and then they have concrete slats that sit over top. So all the effluent goes through the slats, captured in those bunkers. It can either be emptied out, you can pull the liquid off it, and then the other main way of cleaning it out is you actually lift the concrete slats out and then dig it out with a tractor or a loader.
And so how deep are the bunkers?
Oh, they'd be like 1.5 metres deep, 1.8 metres deep.
Yeah. All right. And then there's concrete slats that the cows are walking on top of it. So there's like a big deck on the top.
Yes, correct. And then it has a timber rail around the outside, and then on the outside of the barn, it's got like a concrete pad, so the tractor can drive around the outside of the barn with the silage wagon or the feeder wagon. And there's 4 water troughs in the barn, so 2 at each end. And the concrete slats are just down the middle of the barn, so actually to each side where the cow's reaching through the timber to grab the feed, that is actually a solid piece of concrete. But over time, with the straw and the effluent, it's kind of built up to be just a nice sort of a soft pad.
It's like a bit of a mattress across the whole lot.
Yeah.
And that's where the straws really come into its own, because it's increased the comfort of the cows significantly as well. So.
And during mating, you guys have stopped using the barns for injury purposes, the cows. But now with the straw in, it's created that matting over top. So it's actually allowed the barn to be used over that mating period as well, with the cows moving around.
Okay. So do the cows have access to these barns all year round or just in the winter?
No, so it depends on the year. We definitely use them over the winter, every winter without fail. And generally, they have about 6 hours on grass a day and then come back to camp in the barns. Sorry, this is over the winter. Over the winter, they have about 6 hours on grass, and then they come back to the herd barns, have their supplement feed, and camp up for the night. During the season, they are used more like a feed pad. So Halter opens the gate for the cows at, say, 4 o'clock in the morning. They come back to the herd barn, they have their supplement feed, then they come down to the shed to be milked. Over the summer, if we're having a really hot summer and Halter is starting to show signs of heat stress in the cows, we've actually got those barns set up with shade cloth. So the girls will get milked and then they'll go straight back up to the barn under the shade cloth, and then they will go out to their paddock at, say, 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon and get their 4 or 5 shifts sort of over the afternoon and evening and through the night. So we find that that works really well in those hot summers. There's very little pulling. The cows are eating during the cooler part of the day. So instead of sort of strutting back and forwards across the paddock trying to find shade, they're more inclined to just have a big feed and sit down and rest. And so we conserve energy with the shade cloth pulled in the herd barns. It's anywhere up to 6 degrees cooler in there than outside. Even with all those 400 bodies next to each other, it's still 60 degrees cooler in there. They've got as much water as they can drink, so they love it. They're very comfortable in there.
All right. And there's always potential there to put a little misting system up or some fans or something if you really wanted to decrease that temperature even further. Sounds good.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm guessing this was a huge investment. What would the return on investment be for these 2 herd barns?
Well, ours were put in 2007 and 2009, so they've been in for a long time. Like, I think we were one of the first ones in the Bay of Plenty, so I had only just started on the farm when we put them in. So I actually don't know what the return on investment would be on them. It'd also be a little bit of a hard thing to work out too, because it just gives us so much flexibility. I don't know how you'd sort of put a bit of a figure on that, really.
And they've also become quite a big environmental tool as well. There's a lake at the bottom of the farm, and it also flows into other lakes around here as well. So we are very conscious, and Megan's whole family and dad has also been very environmentally conscious of everything as well. So those herd barns have just been a great asset and tool in managing the pasture, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, because you're not going to get the nitrogen leaching if you're not putting on the synthetic fertilizer, and you're able to make your own compost. I'm sure the research shows that when you apply compost to the pastures, that the leaching effect is far, far, far less. So, yeah, you're not going to get that runoff effect happening on heavy rains going down the valley. Yeah,
absolutely. So the compost goes on generally in February. So we try and strategically put that on when we're not going to get those big rainfall events, when, there's not water moving through the water profile. And so we're essentially taking all that leaching from June, July, August, when we know there is a surplus of water and nitrogen moving through the soil profile. Those cows are only on in the paddock 6 hours instead of 24 hours. The rest of that effluent that would otherwise be washed through the profile is actually being caught, and then we are using it when we get the biggest return out of it.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Great. All right, well, let's go a little bit more into the biochar. So please tell us about your interest in biochar.
Well, so my passion is growing food. It doesn't matter whether it's milk or veggies. Or meat. I'm just super passionate about growing and helping other people grow high nutrient dense food. And so I watched quite a few sort of permaculture videos and things, and I came across Kay Baxter. I think she was feeding it to her chickens as well as using it in the veggie garden. And I thought, well, if it's good for chickens, surely it must be good for dairy cows too. So I went down a bit of a rabbit hole researching, found out about Terra Preta, all the wonderful things it does for the gut bacteria in animals, and the fact that biochar makes a calf's gut pretty inhabitable to things like E. coli and rotavirus and stuff. And so I decided I wanted to try and feed it to my little calves one spring, and just to see if I could help. We had quite a lot of E. coli in our calves, and see if I could help the animal health on that side, maybe replace the sort of the bentonite clays that we normally use. And it was fabulous, actually. We had calves that were scoury, and you'd walk in and they'd have little black noses because they were self-medicating on the biochar. So the original lot that I trialed on the calves, I bought off Trade Me. I didn't know how to create it, so I just bought some and tasked Danny with figuring out how to create it from there.
Yeah, it was about the same time. I think me making it and you getting it was all in the same time period because I
Yeah.
wasn't moving fast enough for you. So Megan obviously did that bit of research. And then for me, I kind of went down that rabbit hole as well. And then for my 30th birthday, or actually on our front lawn, there was a round patch of grass that just, our lawn fertility's crap. And there's this round piece that just was growing really well. And it was a perfectly round circle. And I thought about it and actually realised my 30th birthday, we had a brazier on that patch and it was a round brazier. So obviously all the coals had fallen down into the soil. And then I went through the process of figuring out how to make it. I ended up getting 2 steel 44-gallon drums, cutting a piece out of it and tightening it up so it was a bit of a smaller drum that could then sit inside another drum, and put the wood in the internal drum with the holes out the bottom and then wood out the back around the outside so it could burn the gases off, and actually made our first lot of biochar that way.
We had a couple
Nice.
of accidental experiments as well too. We had another big fire with garden cuttings and trees and things on the front flat that we'd actually burnt off, and we hadn't fenced it away from the cows. And so every time the girls came into that paddock, they'd go and they'd lick what was left of the fire and poo on it. And a couple of years later, we put that paddock into a multi-species setup crop. And we couldn't figure out how come this patch in the middle was growing so well. Like there was one of our sunflowers and it was well over 7 foot and it had a head the size of a bucket. It was ginormous. And then we sort of remembered that that's where we'd had the fire. And so it was quite cool because we'd been talking about biochar for a while, but this was a pretty good visual for Dad to see how the char actually slows down the release of nutrients and gives it back to the vegetation when it needs it, because that was the only thing that was different in that spot was the fact the cows had pooped on it and it had been a fire, and it probably grew, do you reckon it grew double what the rest of the paddock grew?
You know, when you, I guess, visually looking at the setup crop, it was probably a foot or 2 foot higher than the rest.
Yeah. So that was at the point where Dad went, you know what, I actually think there's something in this. This stuff might work.
Yeah. Farmers are really the ones that need a visual proof of stuff, right? So yeah, it's good.
Absolutely.
And what year was this that you discovered the char through Kay Baxter and then you started making your own?
Was that 3 years ago?
Yeah, but about 3 years ago.
And so how much char have you made, do you think, Daniel?
Not a lot, because we, through my transport relations and people that we know, we actually found a source from a sawmill. And so now we have a partnership with them and have access to the char coming out of one of their kilns. So obviously the wood's getting burned for fuel, and there's a certain proportion of it that obviously isn't getting oxygen and it is turning it into char. So we've actually had that product coming to the farm here for the last 18 months, I would say. And so we've been able to put a huge amount on the farm. We've used it in different areas.
So all of the cows get it every day with their high energy blend. The girls get a little bit of char in there.
As stock food.
As stock feed. Our calves get it with a bit of salt as a stock feed. We have used it as a layer underneath our wood chip in our calf barns, which has had amazing success in terms of I didn't treat a single navel this year. There was no ammonia smell. The health of the calves was better. The barn stayed drier. We used 25% less chip. And when we pull it out, we've got this beautiful material that can either be set aside and composted or thrown straight onto the pastures. So that's been amazing. We've got biochar in the silt traps. We've put it in the bottom of the herd barns. We had
anywhere you can
think we've put it. Yeah, we had a paddock that was the fertility was out of balance. We used it as a mop up for that and have had phenomenal response and grass growth there. And yeah, in terms of the animal health, we've dropped our worm drench usage by at least 2/3 by introducing biochar. So just keeping the calves healthier, their rumen healthy.
Awesome.
We're now in a position where we are starting to have a bit of excess that we are actually processing, and this is still in the early stage for us. This is also part of our Above and Below collective that we're just working through currently. So hopefully in this next month or so, we can actually be giving prices and making that available to other farmers as well.
We're working on being able to activate the biochar rather than just selling it as a raw product.
All right. What's the difference between doing raw char and then doing something that's been activated? Do you want to tell people what activated means?
When the char comes out of the boiler, essentially it's got a waxy coating over the top of it. And so activating it is just essentially covering it or submersing it in living biology, and they break down the waxy coating and increase the cation exchange capacity of the particle, which means that you can attach more magnesium, calcium, all those sort of things to the particle. The biochar sort of grabs onto these things and sort of creates like a sponge and just lets it off nice and slowly to the plant as it needs it. It also creates little houses in the biochar for fungi and bacteria to live, and it can also hold on to quite a bit of moisture. Also means if you activate it first and then put it on the pastures, it's less inclined to suck up all the stuff that's already in your soil and hold on to that, because quite often if you put it on raw, it'll soak everything up and then you'll get a massive pasture lag because everything's not available for a little while. Whereas if you activate it first, and especially if you're mixing it with something like lime, it just sort of doesn't seem to mop everything up quite so quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, if you put the raw biochar on, it's basically going to disrupt the soil life more than anything. Whereas if you put it on and it's really full of nutrients and life, then it's only going to add to the soil. And when plants grow into it and fungi go into it, then they can access what they need when they need. And you're basically building your bank account then, aren't you? You're adding something there for the soil to use when it needs it rather than disrupting it.
Absolutely, yeah.
What are your key tips for feeding it to the animals? So calves first. How do you get the calves to eat it?
You don't have to get them to eat it. They're funny little fellas. They know when they need it, to the point where we had another friend of ours actually use it as a base layer in his calf pens as well. We caught up with him at rugby one day and he said that his calves had actually been digging little holes and licking it. They know when they need it. So in terms of calves, I have a container in there. It's filled with biochar. They just lick it when they need it. I keep it fresh. So they're the easiest ones, I think. For the older stock, I actually quite like mixing it with a bit of salt, because generally we're low in salt as well, and the cows and the beefies and things sort of tend to chase salt too. So it slows them down with the salt, but it also gets that bit of char into them ad lib as well. So that's, yeah. The cows, we actually just mix it straight into their high energy feed, so they don't have a choice. They just get it every day.
Yep. And what amount? Do you know how many grams it would be about?
I think it's three 20-litre bucketfuls for 400 cows, but yeah, I'm not sure what that quite equates to.
When you feed it to the calves, for example, and you put it in a container for them, what sort of size would the particles be?
So the stuff we're getting is actually quite finely ground stuff.
It's pretty much just the same consistency as sawdust.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and I've also wanted to kind of pin down a little bit on the drenching, because that's one of the things that I cannot find much research on. But I do kind of wonder, with the way that you are managing your whole farm, whether the drenching is less just because you've got healthier pastures.
We've changed the whole system too. So, it's a fairly hard thing to hang a hat on and say that's what's done it. But we've been fecal testing for 3 years, and we've also been feeding the char for 3 years, and we've been sort of changing our farming system for 5. Over the 3 years, we've never had one fecal sample tell us we have to drench. And we probably fecal test 5-6 times a year as well. Whereas probably 10 years ago, we were drenching every 6 to 8 weeks. By the 6th to 8th week, there were wet tails. You could smell it. They were listless and lethargic, and their coats were dull, and you could see they were wormy. So I don't think it was the char alone. I do think healthy pastures, less urea, less fertilizer, more sort of holistic management and just overall health, but certainly huge cost saving there as well. Yeah.
Okay. Is it fair to say that you've kind of eliminated the traditional drenching that you can actually see in a fecal count result?
We haven't eliminated the need for drenching, but we've definitely reduced significantly our reliance on drenching.
Okay, yeah. And who knows, maybe over time you might find that you don't need to drench at all.
That would be phenomenal.
As it continues to improve, hopefully it would go away.
That's something else we are starting to do, is plant fence lines with strips of things with wormwood and flax and pittosporums that are those natural wormers anyway. Yeah, so that's something we're starting to try and chip away at, so that the calves and the young stock have access to nature's wormers as well as our chemical wormers.
Yeah. I think that's really necessary, is that we need more trees back on landscapes, and very diverse trees. And then, like you say, the tannins and other chemical compounds in those trees and in other plants, not only trees, but other herbs and stuff too, they can naturally do that worming. And if we do that plus selection, I think we can do away with poisons. Yeah. Sorry, Daniel, you were going to say something?
So when I was 18, I actually worked on a cattle station about 3 hours northeast of Alice Springs, and did a mustering season on that, and wonderful experience. It's all just bush, and the cattle just live in bush. It's not like there's lots of grass, and they are the healthiest animals that I've ever seen in my life, and there is not one touch of drench or anything that goes on to them. They're purely brought into the yards, castrated, dehorned, broken up into different mobs, drafted, and stock goes out on the truck to the abattoirs or feedlots, but everything's healthy. So it's quite interesting, when you look in that realm of the way that's being farmed. To us, like, there is, in certain areas, there is definitely no need for those inputs.
Yeah.
Yeah, because what are we going to do when it doesn't work? We've got sheep with triple worm drench resistance. Well, where to now? So it's a big problem and it needs addressing.
Yeah, cool. All right. Do you want to explain or tell us a little bit more about those future plans, Daniel? So you've got a transport business, and are you going to then use that in distributing the char outwards? Is that the plan?
Yeah, so I've got a little bit of everything. Obviously, the change on the farm here, Megan's discovered that she needs different products for different things that's been going on, and her and her dad will go, we need this. For example, one of them was the straw and the char and different things, and then we go find it, and then we bring it back. And obviously there's a need here for those different products. And also with Megan's connection with the soil, there's a need for her help as well. We've had people to help guide her as well to where things are now. So again, back to us wanting to help create nutrient-dense food for people, it's really pulling all of that together. So with the transport side, we are pulling that biochar into it as well and processing it, so we actually have a quality product that we can then sell.
And then we'll sell it through our new company, which is Above and Below Collective, which also offers coaching for farmers and growers, and is a bit of a supplier of more regenerative, resilient products to a fairly quickly growing industry.
Okay. Tell me a little bit more about when you do the composting from your bunkers. Are you putting that into large windrows? Is one question. And the second question is are you adding even more biochar in there, or do you think there's enough from just putting it in cow binds and stuff?
So we've done it both ways. We've done windrows, and we definitely add a lot more biochar in. It's amazing. We pulled the cover off last year, and it had just turned into this huge worm farm. It was amazing. There was just worm castings all the way through it. So kind of got a double whopper there. But it is a lot of handling, and we still haven't quite got the mix right, I don't think. But when we cracked open the herd barn last year, with the addition of the straw and that fungal network already established right the way through it, I think this year we're just going to go mix the biochar straight into the bunkers, put the effluent biochar mix straight into the muck spreader and put it straight onto pasture rather than having to windrow it. My theory is it's already turned into a high fungal compost while it's been sitting there for 12 months. So why do some further processing?
Yeah, well, if you can save a whole lot of time and effort and machine hours and fossil fuels, then yeah, that sounds like a pretty good experiment to try. All right. Yeah, I did a whole lot of research on biochar and compost, so I'm a huge advocate of adding sort of up to 20% by volume of biochar to any kind of compost, whether you're letting that be done by worms or hot compost or cold compost. It adds lots and lots of benefits to the whole composting process. So yeah, it's good that you've got it in there.
So it's been really interesting too, like through webinars and podcasts around biochar and the way everyone is saying about using it. It's quite interesting. Like a lot of people speak from theory behind it rather than the practical of actually doing it. It's really cool on the farm here to have seen what Megan and her dad have done. Every practical use and way of using it has actually been done, and it's been done for the last 2 years or 18 months or whatever it is. So it's really cool to see that happening in the system.
Yeah, cool. Oh, so it sounds like your dad's right into it now.
Oh yeah. No, he's drinking the Kool-Aid now.
Okay, cool. Yeah. And I'm guessing as part of your consulting, are you getting people to come and see your place and do tours and stuff?
Yeah, we had an open day here last November, I think it was. Yeah, with Verdi. And we had over 100 people come on farm, which was really cool. I'm just waiting for our multi-species crops to put their heads up a little bit more. We were a bit late getting them in this year, just with the season we've had, and going to take a few of my clients for a drive round and actually get them to see what a multi-species crop looks like and what it can grow and things. So I would take anyone for a drive. I'm so proud of what we've done and what we've achieved and the family we've built here that I just love sharing it.
Yeah, cool. Alrighty. Is there anything else that you guys would like to chat about today?
So the biochar product, we are working on getting that to market. So we will definitely have something within this next month that we can actually offer to people. Yeah, I think that's probably the biggest one in that scope.
Yeah.
You know, we might end up with a big market or clientele for it. So there's definitely scope. If we can help connect people and again to make healthier soils, healthier food, then that's where we're sitting.
Yeah, I think the biochar market's definitely going to increase over the next 4 or 5 years as well. There's huge scope for it, huge benefits. People are starting to realise it's not just a bit of a fad. But I love what we're doing and I love what we're creating.
Oh, all right. Sounds good. Is there an active Quorum Sense group up near you guys?
No, there is not. Yeah, it is a pity.
Well, hopefully when you coach a few people near you, and then one or two of them might start the group and get it going, and then it will grow from that.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah.
Yeah, the thing I like about the Quorum Sense is that it's your people that kind of find each other, whereas when there's no group, you might be in your own little silo and not realize, there's other people nearby doing similar stuff. But because you're a minority, you're always like a bit afraid to even say to other people what you're doing, because the peer pressure is so strong, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. You can normally tell though because they've got paddocks of sunflowers, so you sort of know when one of your people's around because you drive past a paddock of sunflowers.
Oh, that's the calling card. Okay.
I've no problem telling people.
No, Danny's quite open. We often get the joke that Dad and I'll be walking around on the farm in jandals, but we just laugh it off.
Jandals or bare feet?
Jandals are bare feet. Yeah, I don't like prickles.
Oh, well, thank you so much for your time today and sharing about your journey. It sounds like a great place to come and visit. So I will recommend that anyone who's in your area sees your open day and will go and have a look. But yeah, thanks for your time. Thanks very much.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dylan.
Well, thanks, Dylan.
Yep, you're very welcome.